Chapter 1. New Year, New Resolutions. Jason Crump stared at the blinking cursor on his laptop screen like it had personally offended him. The words Happy New Year glowed in bold letters across the homepage of the lamp shop he ran online. He typed them an hour ago and hadn't added a single thing since. The truth was, he didn't feel particularly happy. Not sad either, just neutral. Like a man sitting in a waiting room for a life he wasn't sure he'd ever check into. Outside his apartment window, fireworks cracked against the midnight sky, painting streaks of red and gold over the city. Cheers drifted up from the street below, muffled by the glass. Somewhere, people were kissing, clinking champagne flutes, making promises they'd break by February. Jason, on the other hand, was hunched over a workbench in his living room, holding a half-finished wall lamp made from a 2-liter soda bottle and a piece of PVC pipe. "Happy New Year," he muttered to himself, voice dry as sandpaper. "You glamorous son of a gun." He set the lamp down and rubbed his eyes. His phone buzzed on the table, a group text from his college buddies. "Come on, Crump. Party at Dave's. Bring your sad single dad energy and we'll fix it with tequila." Jason snorted. Sad single dad energy. They weren't wrong, but he wasn't about to spend the first hours of the new year explaining why he couldn't just get back out there. He typed a quick reply, "Pass. Have fun, guys," then tossed the phone aside. The truth was, he didn't mind being alone tonight. Lily wasn't here. She was with her mom, probably asleep by now, curled up with her stuffed unicorn. He'd FaceTimed her earlier, listened to her ramble about glitter and how she was going to make the sparkliest castle ever next weekend. That call had been the highlight of his night. Jason picked up the lamp again, turning it in his hands. It wasn't bad. The geometric pattern he'd carved into the plastic caught the light in a way that almost looked intentional. He'd started making these lamps 2 years ago, mostly as a distraction. Now they sold well enough online to cover Lily's weekend adventures, ice cream runs, craft supplies, the occasional trip to the zoo. That was all he wanted, to make her smile. He reached for the glue gun, then paused, staring at the mess of tools and scraps on the table. His apartment was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the distant pop of fireworks. Too quiet. He hated admitting it, but sometimes the silence pressed in like a weight. Jason leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. 31 years old, single, for days a month with his daughter, and a hobby that involved more glitter than any grown man should legally own. He wasn't unhappy, he'd built a life that worked, but somewhere along the way he'd stopped thinking about what he wanted. Everything revolved around Lily, and that was fine. More than fine. She was his world. Still, was it wrong to want something for himself too? His phone buzzed again. Another text, this time from his friend Mark. "New year, new you, man. At least make a resolution. Something small. Say yes to stuff. You're turning into a hermit." Jason stared at the message, lips twitching. Say yes to stuff. Easy for Mark to say. Mark didn't have to coordinate his life around custody schedules and 5-year-old glitter explosions. But maybe Mark had a point. Jason wasn't miserable, but he was stuck. And stuck wasn't living. He opened the Notes app and typed, "Resolution. Say yes more often." Then added a period because it felt official. "Happy New Year, Jason," he said softly, almost like a toast. "Let's see if you can keep that one." The next morning, Jason woke to sunlight streaming through the blinds and the faint smell of burnt coffee. He'd forgotten to turn off the machine last night. Again. He shuffled into the kitchen, poured himself a cup, and stared at the calendar pinned to the fridge. January. Lily's name was circled on the 2nd and 4th weekends, little hearts drawn in pink marker. 2 weeks until he saw her again. He sipped his coffee, grimacing at the bitterness. Maybe he'd go out today, do something different. Not a party, he wasn't that guy anymore. But maybe grab a decent cup of coffee somewhere that didn't taste like regret. He'd been meaning to check out that new cafe on Maple Street. The one with the artsy chalkboard sign and the promise of coffee that loves you back. Jason chuckled under his breath. Coffee that loved you back sounded suspiciously like marketing nonsense. But hey, he'd made a resolution, hadn't he? Say yes more often. This was small. Manageable. He could do small. He showered, pulled on a clean flannel and jeans and grabbed his keys. On his way out, his gaze landed on the half-finished lamp on the workbench. He hesitated, then tucked it into a canvas bag. Maybe he'd work on it later at the cafe. Or maybe he just didn't like leaving it behind. Either way, it came with him. The cafe was warm and bright, filled with the scent of roasted beans and cinnamon. Jason stepped inside, shaking off the chill, and scanned the room. Exposed brick walls, mismatched chairs, a giant chalkboard menu with doodles of smiling coffee cups. It was charming in a way that felt almost too curated. But the smell alone was worth the trip. He joined the short line, glancing at the pastries in the glass case. Croissants, muffins, something that looked like a scone but might have been a rock in disguise. He was debating between a muffin and a safe black coffee when a voice broke through his thoughts. "Next." Jason looked up and froze. The barista behind the counter was, well, striking. Not in a movie star way, but in a way that made you notice. Warm brown eyes, a messy bun that looked like it had been assembled during a sprint, and a smile that was equal parts friendly and mischievous. She wore an apron dusted with flour and glitter, actual glitter, and Jason blinked, wondering if Lily had somehow infiltrated the cafe. "What can I get you?" she asked, tilting her head. Jason cleared his throat. "A coffee. Black. Living dangerously, I see." Her smile widened. "Anything else?" "A muffin to soften the existential dread." Jason huffed a laugh. "You read minds too?" "Only the ones that look like they've been up all night making whatever that is." She nodded toward the canvas bag slung over his shoulder. The edge of the lamp peeked out, betraying him. Jason shifted awkwardly. "It's a lamp." Her eyebrows shot up. "A lamp? Like a normal lamp or a made from recycled soda bottles and PVC pipe kind of lamp?" Jason blinked. "How?" she grinned. "Lucky guess. Or maybe you just have that vibe." "That vibe?" "Yeah." She handed him his coffee, fingers brushing his briefly. "The quietly creative guy who probably owns more glitter than I do vibe." Jason stared at her, momentarily speechless. Then, against his better judgment, he smiled. Really smiled. "You might be right." "Of course I'm right." She winked. "Come back sometime and prove it." Jason walked out with his coffee, heart thudding harder than it had in months. He didn't know her name. He didn't know why that tiny exchange felt like a spark in the middle of winter. But as he stepped into the cold, one thought stuck in his head. Say yes more often. Maybe this was what that looked like. Chapter 2. Glitter everywhere. Jason Crump had learned 2 universal truths about parenting. 1. Silence was suspicious. 2. Glitter was forever. He discovered both truths again on Saturday morning when Lily, his 5-year-old whirlwind of joy and chaos, announced her grand plan. "Daddy, we're making a castle today. The sparkliest castle in the whole world." Jason eyed the kitchen table, already buried under construction paper, glue sticks, and a suspiciously large tub of glitter. "Sparkliest, huh? You sure you don't mean messiest?" Lily giggled, her pigtails bouncing as she dragged a chair over. "Messy is part of the magic." Jason sighed, resigned to his fate. "All right, Princess Glitter Bomb. Let's make some magic." The next hour was a blur of papier-mâché, cardboard towers, and Lily's relentless enthusiasm. Jason cut shapes while Lily narrated every step like a YouTube influencer. "And now," she declared, sprinkling glitter with the precision of a 5-year-old, which was to say none at all. "We add the fairy dust. Daddy, you have to say the magic words." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Magic words?" "Yep. You can't just glue stuff. You have to believe." She gave him a look so serious it could have stopped traffic. "Say it." Jason cleared his throat dramatically. Abracadabra?" Lily gasped. "Daddy, that's for rabbits. We need castle magic." Jason tried again. "Sparkle-tastic castle power?" Lily clapped her hands. "Perfect." He grinned, shaking his head as glitter rained down like confetti. His apartment looked like a unicorn had exploded, but Lily's laughter made it worth every speck of chaos. When the castle was finally standing, leaning slightly to the left, but Lily called it artistic, Jason snapped a picture on his phone. Lily posed proudly, glitter smeared across her cheeks like war paint. "Daddy," she said suddenly, her voice softer now, "why don't you have a girlfriend like Mommy?" Jason froze, the question landing like a pebble in a still pond. He set the phone down slowly. What makes you ask that?" Lily shrugged, busy gluing a paper flag to the castle. "Mommy says girlfriends make people happy. You should have one so you're happy too." Jason swallowed hard, forcing a smile. "Sweetheart, Daddy is happy. I have you." She beamed at that, and for a moment, Jason's chest ached with love so fierce it almost hurt. But later, when Lily was distracted by cartoons and a bowl of cereal, the question lingered like an echo. Why didn't he have a girlfriend? The easy answer was time. His life revolved around Lily, and he wouldn't change that for anything. But if he was honest, there was more. Fear, maybe. Or exhaustion. Or the memory of promises broken and trust shattered. Jason shook the thought away. Today wasn't about regrets. Today was about castles and glitter and Lily's laughter filling the apartment like sunlight. By evening, the castle was complete, and Jason had vacuumed twice with zero noticeable improvement. Glitter clung to everything, his shirt, his hair, probably his soul. Lily was curled up on the couch, watching Frozen for the 100th time, singing off-key with reckless abandon. Jason sat beside her, sipping hot chocolate and letting the warmth seep into his bones. These weekends were his anchor, his reminder that life, for all its mess, still had magic. When Lily finally drifted off to sleep, Jason carried her to bed, tucking her in with her unicorn and kissing her forehead. "Sweet dreams, kiddo." He lingered for a moment, watching her breathe, then returned to the living room. The castle stood proudly on the table, glitter sparkling under the lamp light. Jason smiled despite himself. Maybe Lily was right. Maybe happiness didn't have to be complicated. Maybe it was as simple as saying yes. His phone buzzed on the counter, a notification from his lamp shop. A new message. Jason frowned, wiping his hands on a towel before picking it up. The message was short, playful, and completely unexpected. Your lamps are gorgeous. Do they come with a glitter option? Asking for a friend. Jason blinked, rereading it twice. The username was unfamiliar. Emma Brew. He clicked her profile. Just a picture of a steaming coffee cup and the words caffeine enthusiast. Art lover. Occasional klutz. Jason's lips curved slowly. Emma. The barista from the cafe. The one who'd teased him about glitter and lamps like she'd known him forever. He stared at the message, heart thudding in a way that felt ridiculous for a grown man. Then, before he could overthink it, he typed back, "Glitter is a premium feature. Requires a 5-year-old consultant." Her reply came almost instantly. "Sounds exclusive. Do I need to book an appointment?" Jason chuckled, shaking his head. He didn't know where this was going, but for the first time in a long time, he felt something stir. A spark, small but undeniable. Maybe saying yes wasn't so hard after all. Chapter 3. The coffee shop collision. Jason had never been the kind of guy who checked his messages every 5 minutes. But that night, after Lily fell asleep, he found himself glancing at his phone more than he cared to admit. Emma's playful words lingered like a melody he couldn't shake. He'd replied once, kept it light, and then forced himself to put the phone down. No expectations, no pressure, just curiosity. By morning, curiosity had evolved into something else, a quiet hum under his skin. He told himself he wasn't going back to the cafe because of Emma. He needed coffee beans. That was all. Practical. Logical. Entirely unrelated to the fact that her smile had been stuck in his head since New Year's. Jason parked outside the cafe, gripping the steering wheel like it owed him money. "You're buying coffee," he muttered. "That's it. Coffee." He stepped inside, and the familiar warmth wrapped around him like a blanket. The place was busier today. Students hunched over laptops, a couple sharing a pastry, a man in a suit barking into his phone. Jason scanned the counter, and there she was, Emma. She was balancing a tray of mugs with the grace of someone who'd clearly lost that battle before. Her messy bun was even messier today, strands escaping like rebels. Glitter still clung to her apron, silver this time, catching the light as she moved. Jason wondered if she did it on purpose or if glitter just followed her around like a loyal pet. She spotted him almost immediately, and her face lit up in a way that made Jason's chest tighten. Well, she said, sliding behind the counter. "Back for more existential dread?" Jason smirked. "Thought I'd give your coffee that loves me back another shot." Bold move. She tapped the chalkboard menu with a pen. "We've got a new special today. Cinnamon mocha. Guaranteed to make you believe in magic." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Magic, huh? Does it come with glitter?" Emma grinned. "Only if you ask nicely." Jason chuckled, pulling out his wallet. "I'll stick with black. Keep the magic for someone else. Suit yourself." She rang him up, then leaned on the counter, eyes flicking to the canvas bag slung over his shoulder. "So, did you bring another lamp? Or is that just your emotional support PVC pipe?" Jason laughed, shaking his head. "It's the same one, still unfinished. Unfinished art is my favorite kind." Her tone was teasing, but her gaze held genuine interest. "You really make those out of bottles?" "Bottles, pipes, whatever I can salvage." He shrugged. "Started as a hobby. Now it's a side hustle, I guess." "That's amazing." Emma's smile softened, curiosity brightening her eyes. "You know, most people just binge Netflix when they're bored. You build lamps. That's different." Jason felt heat creep up his neck. Compliments weren't his strong suit. "It keeps me busy." "Busy's good." She slid his coffee across the counter, fingers brushing his briefly. "But you should show them off more. People love handmade stuff." Jason hesitated, then said, "I sell them online." Emma's eyebrows shot up. "Seriously? What's your shop called?" Jason told her, and she grinned. "So that was you. I saw your profile last night. Your designs are gorgeous." Jason blinked. "You saw my profile?" Emma smirked. "What can I say? I'm nosy. And impressed." Jason chuckled, shaking his head. "You're something else. Guilty." She winked, then turned to grab a pastry for another customer. Jason watched her move, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. A spark, small but undeniable. When she returned, she leaned closer, voice dropping just enough to feel conspiratorial. "You know, if you ever want to brainstorm lamp ideas over coffee, I'm here. I'm great with glitter." Jason laughed. "I'll keep that in mind." "You better." She flashed him a grin, then called out, "Next!" as the line grew behind him. Jason stepped aside, coffee in hand, heart thudding like he'd just run a marathon. He told himself it was nothing, a friendly barista being nice. But as he walked out into the crisp winter air, one thought stuck like glue. Say yes more often. Maybe it was time to start. That evening, Jason sat at his workbench, the unfinished lamp in front of him. He picked up his phone, thumb hovering over Emma's message thread. She'd been the one to reach out first. She teased him, laughed with him, even hinted at meeting again. Jason typed slowly, "Thanks for the coffee today. Still thinking about that glitter upgrade." He hit send before he could chicken out. Her reply came minutes later. "Careful. Glitter's addictive. Next thing you know, you'll be making lamps shaped like unicorns. Jason grinned, shaking his head. Not happening. Never say never. Jason stared at the screen, a smile tugging at his lips. For the first time in a long time, the silence in his apartment didn't feel heavy. It felt full of possibility. Chapter 4. The unexpected DM. Jason wasn't sure when a simple message thread had turned into something he looked forward to. But by Tuesday night, he was checking his phone like a teenager waiting for a crush to text back. Emma had a way of making even the most ordinary conversation feel like a game, light, teasing, and just enough mystery to keep him guessing. It started with glitter jokes. Then it spiraled into coffee debates. Dark roast is superior. Blasphemy. Medium roast is the soul of coffee. By the third exchange, they were trading pictures. Jason sent a snapshot of his half-finished lamp, and Emma replied with a photo of a latte art heart that looked suspiciously like a potato. Nailed it, she wrote. Jason laughed so hard he nearly dropped his phone. That's abstract. It's modern art. You wouldn't understand. By Wednesday, their messages had stretched into longer conversations. Emma asked about his shop, genuinely curious about how he started making lamps. Jason told her the truth, that it began as a distraction during a rough patch, something to keep his hands busy when his head was too loud. He didn't go into details about Lily or the custody battles. Not yet, but he hinted at the importance of those weekends, and Emma didn't press. She just replied, "Sounds like you turned something hard into something beautiful. That's pretty amazing." Jason stared at that message longer than he meant to. Compliments usually slid off him like water, but this one stuck. Maybe because it felt real. Thursday night, Emma surprised him with a question that made him pause mid-screwdriver twist. "So, what's the story behind the glitter consultant?" Jason chuckled, wiping his hands on a rag before typing back. "She's 5. Bossy. Thinks castles need more sparkle than physics allows." 5? That's adorable. Is she your niece? Jason hesitated, then decided honesty was easier than dancing around it. "My daughter, Lily." There was a beat before Emma replied, "That's even better. Does Lily approve of your lamp empire?" Jason smiled. "She thinks I should add unicorns. I told her that's a hard no." "Never say never," Emma shot back, echoing her cafe joke. Jason laughed out loud, shaking his head. "You and Lily would get along too well." "Sounds like a challenge," Emma replied, followed by a winking emoji. Jason set his phone down, staring at the screen like it held secrets he wasn't ready to admit. He liked talking to her, more than he expected, and that scared him a little. Not because he didn't want it, but because wanting anything beyond Lily had always felt risky. Friday evening, Jason was sanding a lamp base when his phone buzzed again. "Emma, okay, serious question. Do you ever show your work in person? Like, craft fairs or galleries?" Jason frowned, considering. "No, just online." "You should. People would love it." Jason typed back, "Not really my scene." Her reply came fast. "Maybe it should be. Say yes more often. Remember?" Jason froze, the words hitting like a gentle punch. He hadn't told her about his resolution. Had he? No, he hadn't, which meant she'd just stumbled onto the exact phrase rattling around his head since New Year's. He stared at the message, then smiled slowly. "Touché. I'm full of wisdom," she wrote. "And glitter," Jason added. Obviously. Later that night, Jason sat on the couch, lamp finished and glowing softly on the table. Lily was asleep in her room, her tiny snores drifting through the apartment like background music. Jason scrolled through his messages with Emma, rereading bits that made him laugh, bits that made him think. He didn't know what this was yet. A friendship? Something more? All he knew was that it felt good. Easy. Like breathing after holding his breath for too long. And maybe, just maybe, saying yes wasn't about grand gestures or wild leaps. Maybe it started here with a simple message, a shared joke, and the possibility of something new. Chapter 5. Friends intervene. Jason had just finished cleaning up Lily's glitter apocalypse when his phone buzzed with a video call from Mark. He considered ignoring it. Mark had a sixth sense for meddling, but curiosity won. Jason swiped to answer, and Mark's grinning face filled the screen. "Crump." Mark boomed, like they were in a stadium instead of a phone call. "How's dad life?" Jason smirked. "Glitter. Everywhere. I'm considering a hazmat suit." Mark laughed. "Sounds like a party." "Speaking of parties, when are you going to stop hiding in your lamp cave and actually live a little?" Jason groaned. "Not this again." "Yes, this again." Mark leaned closer, eyes gleaming with mischief. "You're 31, man. You've got the dad thing down. But you also need the Jason thing. When's the last time you went on a date?" Jason hesitated. "Define date. Dinner. Drinks. Human interaction that doesn't involve glue sticks." Jason chuckled. "Pass." Mark narrowed his eyes. "You're talking to someone, aren't you?" Jason froze. "What?" "Oh, you've got that look." Mark pointed at the screen like he'd cracked a code. "The I'm pretending I'm fine but secretly texting someone cute look." Jason tried for casual. "I'm not." "Spill it, Crump." Jason sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's nothing. Just a barista." Mark's grin widened like a shark scenting blood. A barista? That's perfect. Coffee and romance, classic combo. What's her name? Jason hesitated, then muttered, Emma. Mark clapped his hands. Emma. Love it. So when's the date? There's no date, Jason said firmly. We've just talked. Talked? Mark snorted. Translation. Flirted. Jason rolled his eyes. It's not like that. Sure. Mark leaned back, smug as ever. Listen, man. You deserve this. You've been in dad mode for years. It's time to let someone in. Jason opened his mouth to argue, but Mark steamrolled ahead. Here's the deal. You're going back to that cafe. You're asking Emma out. Coffee, dinner, whatever. No excuses. Jason shook his head. Mark? Nope. Mark held up a finger. Say yes more often, remember? Jason blinked. How do you? You told me on New Year's, genius. Resolution. Say yes. This is your chance. Jason stared at the screen, torn between annoyance and reluctant amusement. Mark wasn't wrong. He had made that resolution. And Emma, well, Emma made him feel something he hadn't felt in a long time. Something good. Jason exhaled slowly. Fine. Coffee. Mark grinned like he'd won the lottery. Atta boy. Text me when it's official. Jason ended the call, shaking his head. He glanced at his phone, at Emma's name glowing in the message thread. His thumb hovered, heart thudding like he was 16 again. Finally, he typed, any chance you're free for coffee when you're not making potato-shaped latte art? He stared at the screen, debating whether to hit send. Then he remembered Mark's smug face and his own resolution. Jason tapped the button before he could chicken out. Emma's reply came 5 minutes later. Depends. Are you bringing a lamp for moral support? Jason laughed, tension easing from his shoulders. Only if you promise not to cover it in glitter. No promises. When? Jason hesitated, then typed, Saturday? After your shift. Deal. But if your coffee order is still black, I'm judging you. Jason grinned, setting the phone down. Saturday. A real coffee date. Felt surreal, exciting, and terrifying all at once. He glanced at the glitter-coated castle still standing on the table and shook his head. What do you think, Lily? He murmured. Daddy's going on a coffee adventure. The castle, naturally, offered no opinion. Saturday arrived faster than Jason expected. He spent the morning overthinking his outfit like a man preparing for a job interview. Flannel? Too casual. Button down? Too formal. He settled on a clean Henley and jeans, safe, neutral, not trying too hard. Lily was with her mom this weekend, which meant the apartment was eerily quiet. Jason checked the time for the 10th time, grabbed his keys, and headed out before he could talk himself out of it. The cafe was buzzing when he walked in, warm air scented with espresso and cinnamon. Jason scanned the counter, heart thudding, and there she was, Emma. She wore a dark green sweater under her apron, her messy bun somehow managing to look effortlessly charming. When she spotted him, her smile lit up the room. Look who's back, she said, sliding toward the register. Ready to upgrade from boring black coffee? Jason grinned. Depends. What's the least judgmental option? Emma tapped her chin theatrically. Maybe a caramel latte. Sweet, but not desperate. Jason chuckled. Caramel latte it is. She rang him up, then leaned on the counter, eyes sparkling. So, this is officially a coffee date? Jason raised an eyebrow. Was it unofficial before? Emma smirked. I wasn't sure if you were serious. Some guys talk about coffee like it's a metaphor. Jason laughed. No metaphors, just coffee. And maybe glitter, Emma teased, handing him his drink. Jason took a sip, pretending to analyze. Not bad. Not bad. Emma gasped. That's high praise from Mr. Black Coffee. Jason grinned. Don't let it go to your head. Emma laughed, then glanced at the growing line. Grab a seat. I'll join you when I can. Jason nodded, finding a table near the window. He watched her work, moving with quick efficiency and easy charm, chatting with customers like she'd known them forever. He wondered if she was always like this, bright, magnetic, or if he was just noticing because he wanted to. When Emma finally slid into the chair across from him, breathless but smiling, Jason felt something shift. The noise of the cafe faded, and for a moment, it was just them. So, Emma said, wrapping her hands around her mug, tell me about these lamps. Do they all look like futuristic soda bottles? Jason chuckled. Pretty much. I like turning junk into something useful. That's kind of poetic, Emma said, tilting her head. Making light out of trash. Jason blinked, surprised by the phrasing. Never thought of it that way. Emma smiled softly. You should. It says a lot about you. Jason felt heat creep up his neck. Compliments still caught him off guard, especially ones that felt true. He cleared his throat. What about you? How'd you end up here? Emma shrugged. Needed a fresh start. New town, new job, less drama. Jason nodded, sensing the weight behind her words but not pushing. They talked about coffee, art, music, safe topics that somehow felt intimate. Jason laughed more than he had in months, and when Emma laughed, head thrown back, eyes shining. Jason thought maybe Mark was right. Maybe he did deserve this. As they stood to leave, Emma grinned. Next time, you're bringing a lamp. Jason smirked. Next time. Emma winked. Say yes more often, remember? Jason froze, heart skipping. How do you? Emma shrugged, smile playful. Lucky guess. Jason laughed, shaking his head. Next time, then. As he walked out into the crisp evening air, Jason felt lighter than he had in years. He didn't know where this was going, but for the first time in a long time, he wanted to find out. Chapter 6. Coffee turns into dinner. Jason had planned for coffee. Just coffee. A safe, low-pressure conversation in a cozy cafe where he could retreat if things got awkward. But somehow, coffee had turned into 2 hours of laughter, stories, and Emma teasing him about his tragic lack of latte art skills. When Emma glanced at the clock and groaned, Jason felt a pang of disappointment. What? He asked, sipping the last of his caramel latte. My shift ended an hour ago, she said, eyes widening. I was supposed to leave, but, she shrugged, smiling. You're distracting. Jason blinked. Me? Emma smirked. Don't let it go to your head. Jason chuckled, but inside, something warm unfurled. He wasn't used to being someone's reason for staying. Felt good. Emma grabbed her coat, slinging her bag over her shoulder. So, Mr. Lamps, she said, tilting her head. What's next? You heading back to your glitter empire? Jason hesitated, then heard Mark's voice in his head. Say yes more often. He cleared his throat. Actually, you hungry? Emma's eyebrows shot up. Hungry? Dinner, Jason said quickly, before he could lose his nerve. There's a diner down the street. Nothing fancy, but they make a mean burger. Emma studied him for a beat, then smiled slowly. You know what? Yes. Jason exhaled, relief washing through him. Great. The diner was a throwback to the 80s. Red vinyl booths, neon signs, and a jukebox humming softly in the corner. Jason held the door for Emma, and she grinned. Chivalry. I like it. Jason smirked. Don't get used to it. They slid into a booth, menus in hand. Emma scanned hers with exaggerated seriousness. Important question. Are you a fries guy or a onion rings guy? Jason raised an eyebrow. That's a deal breaker? Absolutely, Emma said solemnly. Fries mean you're dependable. Onion rings mean you're unpredictable. Jason chuckled. What if I like both? Emma gasped. A rebel. Jason grinned. Guess you'll have to take your chances. They ordered burgers and fries with a side of onion rings because Jason liked balance, and conversation flowed as easily as it had at the cafe. Emma told him about her love for painting, abstract stuff, bold colors, messy canvases that looked like chaos but felt like freedom. Jason admitted he couldn't draw a stick figure without supervision, but he loved the idea of turning scraps into something useful. You know, Emma said, dipping a fry in ketchup, you're kind of an artist too. Jason snorted. Pretty sure PVC pipe doesn't qualify as art. Emma shook her head. Art isn't about fancy materials. It's about making something that matters. You take junk and turn it into light. That's poetic. Jason stared at her, caught off guard by the sincerity in her voice. Compliments usually made him squirm, but this one landed deep. He cleared his throat, trying to play it cool. You're good at this. Emma blinked. At what? Making people feel like they're more than they think they are. Emma smiled softly. Maybe that's my superpower. Jason smiled back, and for a moment, the diner faded. The clinking dishes, the hum of conversation, the neon glow. It was just her, sitting across from him, making him feel seen in a way he hadn't felt in years. Halfway through dinner, Emma leaned back, studying him with a curious tilt of her head. So, tell me something real. Jason raised an eyebrow. Something real? Yeah. She popped an onion ring into her mouth. Not favorite color or middle name. Something that matters. Jason hesitated, fingers drumming lightly on the table. He wasn't used to sharing pieces of himself. Not beyond Lily. But Emma's gaze was steady, warm, patient. He found himself saying, I've got a daughter. Emma smiled. Lily, the glitter consultant. Jason chuckled. That's her. How old? 5. His voice softened. She's everything. Emma's smile widened. She sounds amazing. She is. Jason stared at his plate, then added quietly, I only get her every other weekend. Emma didn't flinch or pity him. She just nodded, her voice gentle. That must be hard. Jason swallowed. Yeah, but I make it work. Emma reached across the table, her fingers brushing his briefly. A simple gesture, but it felt like a lifeline. Sounds like you're doing a pretty great job. Jason looked up, meeting her eyes, and something shifted. He didn't feel like a guy with baggage. He felt like a man who mattered. They lingered long after the plates were cleared, talking about everything and nothing. Movies, music, the weirdest customers Emma had ever served. Jason laughed until his cheeks hurt, and when Emma laughed, head thrown back, eyes shining, he thought maybe this was what happiness looked like. When they finally stepped outside, the night air was crisp, stars scattered across the sky like glitter Lily would have approved of. Emma hugged her coat tighter, and Jason fought the urge to offer his. Too soon? Too much? He settled for walking close enough that their shoulders brushed. Thanks for dinner, Emma said, smiling up at him. Thanks for saying yes, Jason replied, and her grin widened. Guess I'm full of surprises, she teased. Jason chuckled. Guess I like surprises. They stood there for a moment, neither moving, the quiet stretching like a thread between them. Jason wanted to ask if he could see her again, but the words tangled in his throat. Before he could untangle them, Emma saved him. So, she said, eyes sparkling, next time you're bringing a lamp. Jason laughed, relief flooding him. Next time. Emma winked. Don't make me wait too long. Jason watched her walk away, heart thudding like it had forgotten how to beat properly. He didn't know where this was going, but for the first time in years he wanted to find out. Chapter 7. Glitter Diplomacy. Jason had cleaned his apartment twice, then a third time just in case. He wasn't sure why. Emma had agreed to stop by for coffee and to inspect the glitter empire, not conduct a white glove inspection. But still, he wanted the place to look decent, which was a challenge when Lily's craft supplies had staged a coup across the living room. Lily was perched on the couch, swinging her legs and watching Jason like a tiny foreman. Daddy, she said seriously, why are you vacuuming again? You already did it. Jason straightened, wiping sweat from his forehead. Just making sure everything's nice. For who? Lily tilted her head, eyes narrowing in suspicion. Is Grandma coming? Nope. Jason hesitated, then said casually, a friend. Lily's eyes lit up. A friend? Is it a girlfriend? Jason froze mid-step. Lily gasped, clapping her hands. Daddy has a girlfriend. Jason groaned. She's not, Lily, she's just a friend. Aha. Lily grinned like she'd cracked a major case. Does she like glitter? Jason chuckled. We'll find out. When the knock came, Jason's pulse jumped like he'd swallowed a live wire. He opened the door to find Emma standing there, cheeks pink from the cold, a smile that could melt glaciers. She wore a navy coat and carried a small box tied with twine. Peace offering, she said, holding it out. Chocolate croissants. In case the glitter consultant demands tribute. Jason laughed, stepping aside. Smart move. Emma walked in, eyes sweeping the room. Wow, this is cozy. Jason rubbed the back of his neck. Translation. Small. Translation. Charming, Emma corrected, flashing him a grin. Before Jason could reply, Lily barreled into view, pigtails bouncing. Hi, are you Daddy's girlfriend? Jason nearly choked. Lily. Emma blinked, then burst out laughing. Wow, straight to the point. Jason groaned. She's 5. No filter. Emma crouched to Lily's level, smiling warmly. Hi Lily, I'm Emma, and I brought croissants. Lily's eyes widened. Chocolate. Yep. Lily gasped like Emma had just proposed marriage. You can stay forever. Jason muttered. Great. Bribery works. Emma winked at him. Always. They settled at the kitchen table, croissants disappearing fast. Lily chattered nonstop, showing Emma her glitter castle and explaining the complex politics of unicorn kingdoms. Emma listened like every word was gold, asking questions, laughing at Lily's dramatic flourishes. Jason watched, something tight in his chest loosening with every smile Emma gave his daughter. He hadn't realized how much he needed this, someone who didn't just tolerate Lily, but adored her. When Lily dashed off to fetch her latest masterpiece, Don't move. I'll be right back. Emma turned to Jason, eyes soft. She's incredible. Jason smiled, pride swelling. Yeah, she is. Emma hesitated, then said quietly, You're a good dad. Jason blinked, throat tightening. Compliments about his parenting always hit different. Maybe because he spent so much time wondering if he was enough. Thanks, he said, voice rougher than he intended. Emma reached out, fingers brushing his briefly. A simple touch, but it felt like a spark. Seriously, she's happy. That says everything. Jason swallowed hard, meeting her gaze. For a moment, the room felt smaller, warmer, like the world had narrowed to just them. Then Lily returned, arms full of glitter-coated chaos. Look, it's a dragon. Emma gasped appropriately. Wow, that's amazing. Jason chuckled, tension easing. Glitter diplomacy, he murmured. Emma grinned. I'm fluent. The afternoon unfolded in a blur of crafts and laughter. Emma helped Lily glue sequins to a cardboard crown, somehow avoiding total glitter annihilation. Jason made coffee, watching Emma fit into their little world like she'd always belonged. When Lily finally crashed on the couch, worn out from her artistic empire building, Jason and Emma sat at the table, mugs in hand. The quiet felt easy. So, Emma said, smiling, this is the famous workshop? Jason chuckled. Minus the PVC pipes. Didn't want to scare you off. Emma laughed. Please, I'm impressed. You've got skills. Jason shrugged. Just something I do. Emma tilted her head. Something you love? Jason hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, I guess I do. Emma smiled softly. Then own it. Jason stared at her, words tangling in his throat. He wanted to tell her how much this meant. Her being here, laughing with Lily, making his apartment feel less like a cave and more like a home. But before he could, Emma glanced at the clock and sighed. I should go, she said reluctantly. Before I get glitter in places glitter should never be. Jason chuckled. Too late. Emma grinned, standing. Thanks for today. Thank you, Jason said, walking her to the door. For everything. Emma paused, looking up at him, eyes warm. Next time, you're showing me the full lamp workshop. Jason smiled. Next time. Emma winked. Don't make me wait too long. Jason watched her leave, heart thudding like it had forgotten how to beat properly. Behind him, Lily stirred, mumbling something about dragons and glitter. Jason smiled, closing the door softly. Maybe saying yes wasn't just about coffee or dinner. Maybe it was about moments like this, messy, unexpected, and perfect. Chapter 8. Complications. Jason was still riding the high from Saturday. The laughter, the easy conversation, the way Emma fit into his world like she'd always belonged. Even Lily had declared Emma the best friend Daddy ever had, which was basically a 5-year-old's version of a glowing review. But life had a way of reminding Jason that happiness came with strings, and sometimes those strings tangled fast. It started with a text from his ex, Marissa. Heard you've been busy. Lily mentioned someone new. Jason stared at the message, stomach tightening. He'd known this was coming eventually. Lily was a chatterbox and Emma had made an impression. Still, the tone of Marissa's text set his teeth on edge. Not curious. Not friendly. Loaded. He typed back carefully. Emma's a friend. Lily likes her. The reply was instant. A friend? Or something else? Jason exhaled slowly, resisting the urge to throw his phone across the room. He didn't owe Marissa details about his personal life. Not anymore. But he also didn't want drama spilling over onto Lily. It's not serious, he wrote. Just making sure Lily's not confused, came the response. Jason clenched his jaw. She's fine. I'd never let anything upset her. Marissa didn't reply after that, but the silence felt heavy, like a storm cloud waiting to break. By evening, Jason was restless. He sat at his workbench, tools scattered, the beginnings of a new lamp taking shape under his hands. Normally, the rhythm of sanding and cutting calmed him. Tonight, it barely dented the knot in his chest. He thought about Emma, her laugh, her warmth, the way she'd looked at him like he was more than a guy juggling weekends and glue sticks. He wanted to call her, hear her voice, but hesitation held him back. Was he dragging her into something messy? Was it fair? His phone buzzed, and his heart jumped. Emma. Just finished a painting. It looks like a rainbow exploded. Want to see? Jason smiled despite himself. Absolutely. A photo popped up. A canvas splashed with bold colors, chaotic and beautiful. Jason stared at it, then typed, looks like freedom. Emma replied with a laughing emoji. Then, freedom with glitter. Obviously. Jason chuckled, tension easing a little. He wanted to tell her about Marissa's text, about the weight pressing on him, but he didn't. Not yet. Instead, he wrote, when do I get to see it in person? Her reply came fast. Soon. Maybe over dinner. Jason stared at the screen, pulse quickening. Dinner. A real date. He wanted to say yes. God, he wanted to. But Mark's voice wasn't the one echoing in his head now. It was Marissa's, sharp and accusing. He typed slowly, I'd like that. And he meant it, even if the storm was brewing. Saturday came, and with it, Lily's weekend. Jason focused on her. Pancakes in the morning, a trip to the park, a glitter project that left his kitchen looking like a disco ball exploded. He laughed, he played, he soaked up every second. But under it all, the tension hummed. When Lily curled up for a nap, Jason checked his phone. Emma had sent a simple message. Hope you're having fun with your favorite consultant. Jason smiled, typing back, she's negotiating glitter tariffs. Emma replied with a laughing emoji and a heart. Jason stared at that tiny red shape, feeling something shift inside him. He wanted this Emma, laughter, something that felt like hope. But wanting didn't erase the complications. Sunday evening, as Jason dropped Lily off at Marissa's, the storm broke. Marissa stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes sharp. So, she said, voice dripping with sweetness that wasn't sweet at all. Lily tells me you had company. Jason kept his tone even. Emma stopped by. She's a friend. Marissa's smile was thin. Funny. Lily called her Daddy's girlfriend. Jason exhaled slowly. She's not. Look, Lily likes her. That's all. Marissa's gaze hardened. You think it's smart to bring random women around our daughter? Jason's jaw tightened. Emma's not random. Oh. Marissa's eyebrow arched. How long have you known her? Jason hesitated. A few weeks. Marissa laughed. A sharp, brittle sound. Wow. That's reassuring. Jason felt heat rise in his chest. I'm careful, Marissa. I wouldn't let anyone near Lily if I didn't trust them. Marissa's eyes narrowed. You sure about that? Because Lily's 5. She doesn't need to be confused about who's important. Jason's hands curled into fists at his sides. She knows who's important. Me. You. That doesn't mean I can't have a life. Marissa's lips thinned. Just remember, if this affects Lily, the court won't care about your excuses. Jason stared at her, anger and frustration tangling in his gut. He wanted to shout, to remind her that she'd been the one who walked away, who wanted freedom without responsibility. But he didn't. For Lily's sake, he swallowed it down. "Good night, Marissa," he said, voice tight. He walked back to his truck, heart pounding, the weight of her words pressing like a stone. By the time he got home, the apartment felt colder, emptier. He sat on the couch, staring at his phone, Emma's name glowing like a lifeline. He wanted to call her. He wanted to tell her everything. The mess, the fear, the way Marissa's voice still echoed in his head. But instead, he typed, "Hope your rainbow painting survived the weekend." Emma replied with a photo of the finished piece, bright and wild and beautiful. It did. Barely. Jason stared at it, something in his chest loosening. Maybe life was messy. Maybe it was complicated. But maybe, just maybe, it was still worth saying yes. Chapter 9. The big misunderstanding. Jason had been looking forward to dinner with Emma all week. They'd picked a day, Friday, and he'd even started planning which lamp to bring as a conversation piece. But then Thursday night hit, and everything unraveled. It started with a call from Marissa. Jason almost didn't answer, but Lily's name flashing on the screen made him pick up. "Hey," he said cautiously. Marissa's voice was tight. "Lily's sick. Fever. I can't take her to daycare tomorrow." Jason's chest clenched. "Is she okay?" "She's miserable," Marissa said. "I've got work. Can you take her?" Jason didn't hesitate. "Of course." He hung up, already rearranging his mental calendar. Dinner with Emma? Gone. Friday was now about Lily, movies, soup, and making sure his little girl felt safe. That was non-negotiable. By morning, Jason had texted Emma, "Hey, I have to cancel dinner. Lily's sick." "I'm sorry." He stared at the message, wishing he could explain more. How Lily came first, always, but he didn't want to sound like he was making excuses. He hit send, then tossed the phone aside and focused on Lily. She was curled on the couch, cheeks flushed, clutching her unicorn like a lifeline. Jason knelt beside her, brushing damp hair from her forehead. "Hey kiddo, how's my warrior princess?" Lily groaned. "No glitter today." Jason smiled softly. "That bad, huh?" She nodded, eyes drooping. Jason's heart squeezed. He hated seeing her like this, small and fragile when she was usually a whirlwind of energy. He made soup, queued up cartoons, and sat with her until she drifted off. Hours later, Jason checked his phone. Emma had replied, "Hope Lily feels better soon." Short, polite, but something about it felt cooler than usual. No teasing, no emojis, no playful banter. Jason frowned, typing back, "Thanks, I'll keep you posted." No response. By Saturday, Lily was improving. Still tired, but smiling again. Jason breathed easier, but the silence from Emma gnawed at him. He scrolled through their old messages, the jokes and laughter that had felt so easy, and wondered if he'd messed up. He considered calling her, explaining everything, but hesitation held him back. What if she thought he was unreliable? What if she didn't want to deal with the complications of his life? The custody schedule, the sudden changes, the reality that Lily would always come first. Jason shoved the phone in his pocket and focused on Lily. They built a small craft project. Nothing fancy, just paper crowns and stickers. Lily giggled when Jason wore his crooked crown, and for a while, the knot in his chest loosened. But that night, when Lily was asleep and the apartment was quiet, Jason stared at his phone again. Still no reply, and for the first time since Emma walked into his life, the silence felt heavy. Emma, meanwhile, sat in her tiny apartment, staring at her own phone. She'd read Jason's message 3 times before replying, and every time, the same thought had whispered, "Of course. Cancel plans. Because life's complicated." She hated that the thought even crossed her mind. Jason wasn't flaky, he was a dad. A good one. She'd seen it firsthand. But Emma had been down this road before. Promises broken, plans canceled, always feeling like someone's second choice. She'd sworn she wouldn't do it again. So she kept her reply short, polite, safe. And when Jason didn't follow up beyond a quick, "I'll keep you posted," Emma told herself it was fine. Better to pull back now than get attached and end up hurt. But when she closed her eyes that night, she saw Lily's glitter-covered grin and Jason's quiet smile, and her chest ached in a way that didn't feel fine at all. Sunday evening, Jason finally broke the silence. "Lily's feeling better. Thanks for checking in." Emma stared at the message, fingers hovering over the keyboard. She wanted to reply, wanted to say she was glad, wanted to ask if he was okay. But the wall she'd built felt safer. "Glad to hear it," she typed, then set the phone down and walked away. Jason read the words, simple and distant, and felt something sink inside him. He'd thought they were building something slow, steady, real. But maybe he'd been wrong. Maybe Emma didn't want the mess that came with him. He sat at his workbench, tools untouched, staring at the half-finished lamp he'd planned to show her. For the first time in weeks, the silence felt like it used to, heavy, suffocating. And for the first time since New Year's, Jason wondered if saying yes had been a mistake. Chapter 10. The Grand Gesture. Jason stared at the lamp on his workbench like it held the answer to every question he'd been too afraid to ask. It wasn't just a lamp, it was a message, a confession, a piece of himself carved into PVC and recycled plastic, painted in warm tones that reminded him of Emma's laugh and the way her eyes lit up when she talked about art. He'd spent hours on it, sanding every edge, layering colors until they blended like a sunset. And then, because Lily insisted, he added a touch of glitter, just enough to catch the light without turning it into a disco ball. Lily had declared it perfect before falling asleep, and Jason hoped she was right, because tomorrow he was taking it to Emma. The cafe was quiet when Jason walked in, lamp cradled in his arms like something fragile. His heart thudded against his ribs, every step heavier than the last. He'd rehearsed what he wanted to say a dozen times, but the words still tangled in his head. Emma was behind the counter, wiping down the espresso machine. When she looked up and saw him, her smile flickered. There, then gone, replaced by something guarded. Jason's chest tightened. "Hey," she said, voice polite, neutral. "Hey." Jason swallowed hard, moving closer. "Got a minute?" Emma hesitated, then nodded. "Sure." Jason set the lamp on the counter. The soft glow spilled across the polished wood, catching the flecks of glitter like tiny stars. Emma blinked, surprise breaking through her cool facade. "You made this?" she asked, voice softer now. Jason nodded. "For you." Emma stared at the lamp, fingers brushing the edge like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to touch it. "It's beautiful." Jason exhaled, tension easing just a fraction. "I wanted to say I'm sorry, for canceling, for not explaining." Emma looked up, eyes searching his. "Jason, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." His voice was rough, urgent. "Lily was sick. She needed me, and I didn't want to drag you into the mess. My life isn't simple. It's schedules and court orders and glitter explosions. And I thought maybe you'd decide it was too much." Emma's breath caught. "Jason." He shook his head, words tumbling out now, raw and unfiltered. "I like you, Emma, more than I've let myself like anyone in years. But Lily comes first. Always. If that's a deal breaker, I get it. I just needed you to know." Silence stretched between them, heavy and fragile. Jason's heart pounded, waiting for the blow he'd been bracing for. Then Emma stepped closer, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "Jason," she said softly, "I don't want perfect. I want real. And you? You're real." Jason blinked, the knot in his chest unraveling all at once. "You're okay with all of it?" Emma smiled, a smile that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. "I like Lily. I like glitter. And I like you. So yeah, I'm okay with all of it." Jason laughed, shaky and disbelieving, and Emma laughed too, the sound warm and bright. For the first time in weeks, the silence in Jason's head was gone, replaced by something that felt like hope. They sat in a corner booth, the lamp glowing between them like a promise. Jason told her about Lily's latest craft empire, about the way she'd insisted on adding glitter to the lamp, so Emma knows it's special. Emma laughed, eyes shining, and Jason thought maybe Lily had known what she was doing all along. When Emma reached across the table and laced her fingers through his, Jason didn't pull away. He held on, feeling the weight of every moment that had led here. The doubts, the fears, the nights alone, and realizing that maybe saying yes wasn't about avoiding mess. Maybe it was about embracing it. Because life was messy. Love was messy. But sitting there with Emma's hand in his and the lamp casting soft light over both of them, Jason knew one thing for sure. It was worth it. Chapter 11. New Beginnings. Jason woke up Saturday morning to the sound of Lily singing off-key in the bathroom. Something about glitter and dragons. He smiled, rolling out of bed, the memory of last night still warm in his chest. Emma's laugh, her hand in his, the glow of the lamp between them like a promise. For the first time in years, Jason felt light. Not because life had magically become easy. He still had custody schedules, craft explosions, and an ex who could turn a text into a weapon. But because he wasn't carrying it alone anymore. Emma was in his life now, and that changed everything. Lily bounded into the kitchen, pigtails bouncing, clutching a paper crown. "Daddy, guess what?" Jason grinned. "What?" "I made a royal decree," she announced, climbing onto a chair. "Emma has to come over today." Jason chuckled. "A royal decree, huh?" "Yep." Lily adjusted her crown with regal seriousness. "She's part of the kingdom now." Jason's chest tightened in the best way. "I'll ask her," he said, hiding his smile behind a sip of coffee. Emma arrived that afternoon, carrying a bag of craft supplies and a grin that made Jason's heart trip over itself. "I heard there was a royal summons," she said, stepping inside. Lily gasped. "You brought glitter?" Emma winked. "Always." Jason groaned. "Why do I feel like I'm losing control of this kingdom?" Emma laughed, brushing past him to join Lily at the table. Jason watched them. Emma crouched beside Lily, helping her glue sequins to a cardboard dragon, and felt something settle deep inside him. This wasn't just fun. It was right. Later, When Lily was absorbed in her glitter empire, Jason and Emma slipped into the kitchen for coffee. Emma leaned against the counter, her smile soft. "She's amazing." Jason nodded, pride swelling. "Yeah, she is." Emma hesitated, then said quietly, "You're amazing too." Jason blinked, throat tightening. "Emma." She reached out, fingers brushing his. "I know it's not simple, but I'm not going anywhere." Jason exhaled, the weight he'd been carrying easing like a knot undone. "You sure?" Emma smiled. "Positive." Jason laughed softly, shaking his head. "You're full of surprises." Emma grinned. "Get used to it." That night, after Lily fell asleep, Jason and Emma sat on the couch, the glow of the lamp casting soft light over the room. They talked about everything: dreams, fears, the messy beauty of starting over. Jason told her about the resolution he'd made on New Year's: say yes more often. Emma smiled, squeezing his hand. "Guess it worked," she said. Jason looked at her, really looked at her, and thought maybe it had worked better than he ever imagined. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of new rhythms. Coffee dates turned into dinners. Emma joined Lily's craft sessions, earning the title of Glitter Ambassador. Jason learned how to balance fatherhood with something he'd almost forgotten: his own happiness. It wasn't perfect. There were late nights, schedule conflicts, moments when Jason worried he was asking too much. But every time doubt crept in, Emma was there. Steady, patient, reminding him that love wasn't about perfection. It was about showing up, together. And Jason, he was finally learning to do just that. Chapter 12. Glitter Forever. Jason Crump had learned a lot in the past few months. About love, about balance, and about the sheer impossibility of removing glitter from a couch cushion. He was convinced scientists could use glitter as a permanent adhesive in space. Lily, of course, considered this a feature, not a flaw. It was a Saturday afternoon, and Jason's apartment looked like a craft store had exploded. Lily was perched on the floor, humming happily as she glued sequins to a cardboard crown. Emma sat beside her, sleeves rolled up, laughing as Lily explained the royal rules of the Glitter Kingdom. Rule 1. Glitter is mandatory. Rule 2. Daddy has to wear a crown at all times. Rule 3. Emma is the official glitter ambassador. Jason groaned from his spot at the workbench, where he was finishing a new lamp design. "I feel like these rules are biased." "They're fair," Lily said solemnly, adjusting her crown. "You're the king. Kings wear crowns." Emma grinned, holding up a crooked paper tiara. "And ambassadors wear glitter." Jason chuckled, shaking his head. "You two are dangerous." Emma winked. "You love it." Jason smiled, and she wasn't wrong. He did love it. The chaos, the laughter, the way Emma fit into their world like she'd always belonged. He loved the sound of Lily's giggles mixing with Emma's voice, the warmth that filled the apartment like sunlight. He loved this life, messy, imperfect, and his. Later, when Lily was busy negotiating glitter tariffs with her stuffed unicorn, Jason and Emma slipped into the kitchen for coffee. Emma leaned against the counter, her smile soft. "So," she said, "how's the resolution going?" Jason raised an eyebrow. "Resolution? Say yes more often," Emma reminded him, eyes twinkling. Jason chuckled, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. "Pretty good, I think." Emma tilted her head. "Pretty good." Jason handed her a mug, his smile slow and certain. "Best decision I ever made." Emma's cheeks flushed, and Jason felt something warm settle deep inside him. The kind of warmth that didn't fade when the glitter did. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Jason and Emma sat on the couch, the glow of the lamp casting soft light over the room. The lamp wasn't just decoration anymore. It was a reminder of a New Year's Eve spent alone, of a promise scribbled in a notes app, of a spark that turned into something real. Jason looked at Emma, her head resting on his shoulder, and thought about everything that had led here. The doubts, the fears, the moments when he almost said no. And he realized something simple, something true. Life wasn't about waiting for perfect. It was about saying yes to the messy, beautiful, unexpected things that made it worth living. And for Jason Crump, that started with a lamp, a laugh, and a little bit of glitter. Chapter 13. Lamps, Love, and Glitter. 3 months later, Jason Crump stood under a striped canopy at the local craft fair, staring at the small sign that read, "Crump Creations, handmade lamps with heart." He still couldn't believe Emma had talked him into this. He'd resisted at first. Craft fairs were for extroverts and people who owned glitter cannons, not quiet guys who preferred the hum of a glue gun to small talk. But Emma had smiled that smile, the one that made saying no impossible, and here he was. And honestly, he wasn't hating it. His booth was buzzing. People stopped to admire the lamps. Sleek geometric designs, warm colors, and just enough sparkle to catch the light without blinding anyone. Jason had even brought the lamp he'd made for Emma, now proudly displayed with a tiny sign that read, "Not for sale, special edition." Emma was beside him, chatting with customers like she'd been born for this. She wore a denim jacket splattered with paint and glitter, because of course, and her laugh carried over the hum of the fair like music. Jason watched her, heart doing that ridiculous flip it always did, and thought about how far they'd come. Lily, meanwhile, was running the glitter station Emma had set up at the corner of the booth. For $1, kids could add glitter accents to their lamp purchases or, more accurately, to themselves. Jason had already seen 3 unicorns, 2 dragons, and 1 very sparkly dog leave the station. Lily was in her element, crown perched on her head, declaring herself Queen of Sparkle. Jason shook his head, grinning. "You've created chaos," he murmured to Emma as she handed a customer a business card. Emma smirked. "Controlled chaos. It's an art form." Jason chuckled. "Pretty sure the dog disagrees." Emma laughed, slipping her hand into his. "You're doing great." Jason glanced at the crowd, then back at her. "You think." "I know." Her smile softened. "Look at them. They love what you've made." Jason followed her gaze, at the lamps glowing under the canopy, at the people admiring them, at Lily sprinkling glitter like confetti, and felt something swell in his chest. Pride. Joy. A sense of belonging he hadn't felt in years. "Guess saying yes worked out," he said quietly. Emma squeezed his hand. "Best resolution ever." By late afternoon, the fair was winding down. Jason had sold more lamps than he expected, collected a stack of custom orders, and somehow avoided a full-scale glitter disaster, though his jeans would never be the same. Lily trotted over, cheeks flushed, crown askew. "Daddy, we made $42. Jason blinked. 42. Lily nodded solemnly. "People love glitter." Emma grinned. "Told you." Jason laughed, scooping Lily into his arms. "You're a business mogul." Lily beamed. "Can we buy ice cream?" Jason glanced at Emma, who shrugged with a smile. "Ice cream sounds like a perfect ending." They walked through the fair, Lily skipping ahead, Emma's hand warm in Jason's. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, the same colors Jason had used on Emma's lamp. He thought about that night at the cafe, about the fear that had almost kept him from this, and felt a rush of gratitude. Life was still messy. There were schedules and compromises and glitter in places glitter should never be. But it was a good kind of messy, the kind that came with laughter and love and a little girl who believed in magic. Jason looked at Emma, her hair catching the light, her smile easy and bright, and thought about the promise he'd made on New Year's Eve. Say yes more often. He squeezed her hand, heart steady and sure. "Yes," he whispered, and meant it.